So B2B SaaS, as you would assume, is a very different ballgame than B2C, right? There's not one buyer for B2B products, as you would know.
One of the kind of unspoken truths about designing for B2B SaaS products in the UX industry, which I come from, is that the interface you show in the demo to the buyers has to look different from the interface that the end user actually uses, because they are both looking and wanting different things.
Yesterday, I was meeting somebody from Australia, big bank in Australia, and we were talking about their digital transformation journey and how they went about just having branches and little or no online presence to today when they have multiple mobile applications. And the most important challenge that they talked about is not to do with product or technology. It has to do with people.
But I want to start off by welcoming you to Yellow Couch. Welcome. This is the virtual Yellow Couch. So there is no sign of the Yellow Couch anywhere here, but I'd like to get you on the real one at some point. But for now, I think the virtual Yellow Couch. Today's conversation, I think it's going to be a convergence of many topics. One is, your background in product management, the extensive time and dedication you've had in that one area. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about B2B SaaS and the unique opportunities and challenges in being part of that domain. And of course, related to that would be user experience and design and innovation and AI and all of the things that, become part of the conversation whenever we are talking about digital experiences. So I guess my first question is, Abhishek, when people ask you what you do, what do you tell them? How do you like to introduce yourself?
So earlier, I used to kind of talk more about, what I do as a product manager and what my job definition is. Now I kind of make it a little bit of fun, and I say that, whenever you walk into a coffee shop or whenever you are browsing your favorite, application, and if you get an email, if you get to see an ad, that is something that probably has passed through a product that I help with. But basically what we do is we help companies in kind of really personalizing the experience that they want to deliver to the customers for marketing as well as non-marketing experiences, which ranges from obviously showing the most relevant advertisement on different surfaces, but also making sure that as a consumer, you get to what you need in the fastest way possible at every different touch points, right? It could be online or digital offline touch points as well. So that's primarily what my role is. So in Adobe, I manage what is known as Adobe Experience Platform, which is the foundation layer on which we build a lot of these customer experience management applications that takes care of digital marketing needs of a typical, CMO organization in big brands end to end, starting from data, insights, analytics, profiles, audiences, segmentation, delivery of the campaigns on different surfaces. So the AEP, Adobe Experience Platform, is the product that I drive, and I lead the product team for that in India. My primary focus is on data management in Adobe Experience Platform, on generative AI and AI ML applications across the AEP applications, and also, the value realization products on kind of making sure that we are able to, help our customers derive the most value of our products as soon as they can.
Superb. So you're at the front lines of some of the most important areas that are, I think, driving real value for companies, because relevance is everything, right? In today's world, gone are the days when you can have a one size fits all, the days when personalization was thrown around as a term, but it wasn't really truly personalized. But I think what you're talking about is the true kind of hyper personalization, which very intelligently targets individuals on who they are and therefore what they should see, right? In a nutshell. So let me just step back a bit. How did you arrive here? Give me a little bit of the history.
So I started as a product manager in education technology domain. So I worked for companies where we built learning management systems for schools and universities. And then, it was a pretty stable domain. Of course, recently there have been a lot of innovation happening in all the industries, and AdTech was also a center of that for some time. But I want to kind of really do something different, something kind of that helps me understand what goes behind the minds of people when they are taking decisions, because that always has fascinated me since a long, long time on how do we make decisions. And it can be simple decisions of doing something or not, or buying something or not, watching a movie or not. And I think it all goes back to the perspective that we have, the context that we have that helps us in making those decisions. And when I started doing my research around it, I think the digital marketing, the ad tech space is something that I came across. And that really struck me as a good learning opportunity for me to kind of understand what goes behind when we get to see, let's say, an ad. What is really the brain behind nudging me to buy something and how that works out as an individual. And that kind of nudged me towards ad tech. So I kind of joined an ad tech company. I helped them build, ad servers to deliver ads, and a lot of logic behind how do you kind of select the most relevant ad for individuals depending on what they have been doing digitally, what they have been doing offline, and what is the right time to show something. And that's where the journey started. This was back in 2013. Since then, I have been into, this digital marketing space. After that, I kind of made a transition to Flipkart, because Flipkart at that point in time was looking at uh, monetizing the data that it already has. So as you know, Flipkart being the largest e-commerce, one of the largest e-commerce in India, has loads of data regarding the consumers, their interest, what they are looking for, their online searches and behaviors. And at that point, I wanted to kind of do more than just selling products. How do we kind of make sense of the data and how do we monetize it? So they were trying to build a ad platform. So I joined that team and kind of helped them get started on that. We, had relationship with the largest publisher in the company to make sure that we are building that ecosystem. And we are also kind of helping our brands to kind of have more presence, more contextual presence. And then Adobe was trying to do something similar. Adobe was trying to build a customer experience management platform, which was never done before. So this was the first time that Adobe was thinking about, I already sell creative products. I already have Photoshop and Lightroom and others. I already sell, Acrobat family of products. So I know what companies are doing. I know what brands are using those kind of creatives for. Now, how can I help them in kind of taking them a step further? How can I help them in kind of moving into the customer experience space and not just help them create content, but also help them deliver the content in the best way possible and get the best ROI out of it. And that is what they were trying to achieve with this customer experience management. And so I joined the company to help them build this platform. And now we have multiple applications, multiple verticals for different domains, as I described earlier, that,
Right.
we offers.
So 7 years at Adobe, right? Building this whole
Yes.
ecosystem. When you started this conversation, Abhishek, you gave a coffee shop use case example, right? If you go to a coffee shop, and just elaborate on that example to explain what you do to somebody who doesn't understand this domain at all. So I'm in a coffee shop. I look at my mobile phone, and let's say I've opened a website, a content website or a news website. So how does Adobe Experience Manager personalize that experience?
Yeah. So there are two ways of looking at it, right? So one is that when you walk into a coffee shop, you're there to make a decision, a purchase decision. You have to buy something. You have to probably, get a cup of coffee. Now, how can the brand itself, like let's say Starbucks, help you in making that decision? And probably also help you in making the right choice in terms of where you can get the most discount or where you can get the most loyalty points, or how can you redeem some of the points that you have accrued in the past. That is one touch point which Starbucks doesn't want to lose. Because if you're
So
able to
let's say if
deliver,
I'm in the coffee shop and I open the menu virtually on their app, you could personalize that,
that is
right?
one way of doing
Even
it.
while
So,
I'm, that's one way of
so
doing
let's kind of talk about the surfaces as well, right? Because I think we are getting into that. So there are multiple surfaces where these experiences can be kind of brought up. One is obviously the application itself. So let's say you have a Starbucks application installed in your phone. That would be the most preferred surface for Starbucks. Not many people have that. Not many people probably would have downloaded a Starbucks app on their phone. So beyond that, also, there are multiple surfaces. What happens is that in that case, we look at publishers, we look at other applications or other kind of websites where you are most likely to visit when you are in a coffee shop, and how I can nudge you towards coming back to the brand and leverage whatever offer or discount they want to offer you to. That is second. Third thing is, very interestingly these days, the boundary between online and offline is becoming very thin. In most of these shops that you go into, you have a QR code. you have to scan the QR code, the menu kind of open up in the browser, or you get, kind of navigated to a sort of a
Sure.
portal, a mini portal.
Yeah.
That becomes a very interesting surface as well, a new one which is kind of coming up. And that is something that Adobe can help in kind of making sure that you have some sort of a personalized kind of engagement with the customer. So that's one set of use case, which is as a brand, when you walk into my store, it could be a coffee shop, it could be a retail store, it could be, many different things. How can I make sure that I acquire you as a customer? So you're not just window shopping, you end up buying something, helping you, you're getting the most value out of your experience in that store. The second category of use case is depending on the location, wherever you are. So let's say you are in a coffee shop, but you're close to a mall where I have a presence and I want to kind of nudge you and walk in there and kind of, do some purchases. I know exactly who are you. I know where you are. For how long have you typically been spending time in these kind of stores? So again, the window of opportunity is pretty small, and brands want to really catch your attention right then and there.
Yeah.
So you can use our tech stack to again send push messages, we send out, show banner ads or send email offers, whatnot. So that's the second category of use cases that we offer. Third thing that I want to bring up, sort of, which is very interesting, is you must have been on long haul flights and how you have entertainment systems in these flights.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting stuff which is coming up to us as well. So these airline companies, they are coming with a requirement that, hey, I have this real estate for, hours and hours where, people are sitting just in front of the screens. Of course, they're consuming entertainment content, but I want to kind of make money out of it. How I can do that? One way to do that is kind of just static ads and, something that does not change, same ads and same content for everybody. How can you make it more dynamic? How you can personalize it? And that is something that we are also trying to solve. So we know who you are. We know what seat you are located to. We probably know you as an individual. What are your interests? Can we, on the flight, when you're flying, thousands of feet up in the air, still deliver that personalized experience to you? So these are, astonishingly, kind of exciting use cases which are coming up, and, it's all fun.
No, it's fascinating. So there is this use case where I'm a captive audience. Let's say, I'm in a flight, there's an entertainment center, you have me there for a few hours or maybe more hours. And how can you personalize it for me? On the other end of the spectrum, I am being nudged to actually go into an environment because of my geolocation, etc. And the other surfaces where I've actually, for a short temporary period of time, let's just scan the QR code. So there's a very small window on which, I have to make a decision, pick a product, etc., etc. Now, these are very fascinating. Have these things kind of already started becoming more mainstream? Because in my day to day, I don't know, am I already experiencing this, or is this something that's still being kind of worked out?
Yeah. So I think in terms of the end consumer experiences, different parts of the world are at different stages of adoption. In North America, for example, a lot of our customers are already talking about these use cases and how to implement those, in their existing surfaces. One thing that is consistent across all of our customers, irrespective of where they are, is they still want the data. They still want to kind of capture the data and bring it into the system so that they can start leveraging it sometime in the future. Right. So like one of the days where the customers were not kind of thinking about having a uniform data strategy, because they have understood that to power any of these use cases, either today or in the future, whenever it is relevant for them, they need that data pipeline. So that is an adoption that is happening all over, right? So that is one thing that nobody's kind of falling behind. What probably people are still adopting to is getting to the delivery stage of that experience. So some companies do it really well. Some companies still kind of send emails only. So there are different stages of adoption as far as experience delivery is concerned, but data, I think everybody increasingly is kind of getting more.
Can you give me examples of companies that you think are already at the forefront of the delivery aspect of this?
Yeah. So one that comes to my mind, basically two. One is Coca-Cola and the second one is Marriott. Long-time customers of Adobe's, of course. Both of them started with Adobe's creative tools to build content and, images, videos, whatnot. I'll give you an example of the Marriott, right? So I think in North America, the chain has done a few things when it comes to customer acquisition and a lot of things when it comes to the experience when you actually go to
Living
your
at the
own room.
hotel.
So getting to the hotel when you're kind of checking in. In terms of customer acquisition, they have started looking at the patterns of when is it most likely for you to make a travel, be it for pleasure or be it for business, and when is the right time that I should reach out to you to offer those kind of campaigns which offer you discounts or, upgrades to tiers or whatnot,
Mm.
even before you start planning.
Mm.
So that is where a lot of predictive AI is coming to picture, and Merit is actually doing that and it's doing it really well. So, for example, like we have a annual event which is called Adobe Summit. It's happening in March. Thousands of people, thousands of our customers kind of go to those events, and of course, there are many such events that keep on happening. Merit is actually preemptively figuring out when is the right time to start offering you those kind of campaigns so that you can
Yeah.
book your hotels and make your plans.
Yeah.
Second thing that they
Not
have
too early, not too late, somewhere just
exactly.
in the right, at the right.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, a lot of research went into before you're about to check in, when is it most likely that you're going to upgrade, buy upgrades, right? So
Yeah.
maybe buy a, higher tier room or whatnot. And again, a lot of AI is going into that as well. Second set of use cases that Marriott has implemented right now is the check-in experience. Check-in experience is totally crazy right now. So they have a Bonvoy application, which is
Yeah.
their, loyalty program.
Yeah.
So like Marriott uses the Bonvoy to kind of nudge people to make decisions before you check in terms of what kind of room arrangement would you love to have, what kind of pillows would you love to have, do you need anything special or extra in your room that we can help you with. All of that is happening through the app, and so this is going beyond marketing now. This is going to operational use cases which Merit is trying to do
Very
with the
interesting.
help of our products. And also, obviously, when you are trying to check in, I think the very first thing that comes to mind is, hey, what if I arrive early? Do I need to wait? Or will the hotel allow me to kind of check in earlier than what it is usually? And I think a lot of those engagements are now being taken care of by, again, predicting your time of arrival and then making sure that you have the best experience when you walk in. So yeah, absolutely fascinating how they're trying to do
So
this.
this is experience management beyond just ad tech, right? I mean, this is
Exactly.
so much beyond just customer acquisition. It's so much deeper across the entire life cycle of a customer. Fascinating. I was more intrigued also by the Coca-Cola example. I mean, here's one company which is, you could say, no matter who the customer is, the product is the same, right? How does Adobe Experience Manager play a role there? Is it just at the ad tech level or is it deep?
Yeah, yeah. That's a great question because whenever we talk about Coca-Cola, the same questions come up, right? Like the product is the same. It's been same for years and years, and
Yeah.
it's basically, Coke, right? So what special can they do? So basically, there are two different high-level use cases that, have been really fascinating to me personally. One is when you're closer to an event, when you're closer to, let's say, the year
Mm.
end in North America or even in the Europe, how do you make sure that as Coca-Cola as a brand, you get yourself integrated into everything that is associated with that season? So the
Mm.
Christmas of season, a lot of shopping is happening. A lot of brands are kind of, offering Christmas specific items. The cola cannot become Christmas specific, but how do I integrate myself as a brand into some of those things? So can I do partnerships? Can I offer, co-branding opportunities with probably things that people purchase? Can I offer the bundling discounts? Like if you're buying, let's say, some set of, Christmas items, can I bundle my stuff as well? Second use case is I want to lead you back to my property. I want to bring you to my surface because Coca-Cola is just a can. There is no online presence. You do not really go and purchase Coke online, but still Coke wants to. So they started putting up the QR code on the cans, and when you kind of use your camera to kind of scan the QR code, it leads you to a micro portal. That micro portal is powered by Adobe's Adobe Experience Manager, a microsite
Oh,
which was
okay.
built using Adobe, and on that you have a lot of things that you can do. You can, look at, what are the events or games or activities which are happening where you can participate, either online or offline. You can search for groups within your cities who are kind of coming together for a cause sponsored by Coca-Cola. How you can get free t-shirt, free gifts, you can get swags and all those kind of things, by doing small activities. And one thing that I really love is Coca-Cola's push for sustainability. So how you can take a picture of yours, kind of not, cluttering your Coke cans after you're done, but really kind of disposing them and recycling them. And you take a picture of that and, put it on the portal, and then you're going to get rewarded of that. So I think that whole experience of taking customers who are buying an offline product back to their digital space and then use it to kind of interact with them, to engage with them, that has been really fascinating.
No, those are such fascinating examples, Abhishek, both Marriott and Coca-Cola, and how Coca-Cola is also driving people to a surface where they can actually create more personalized engagement. That's fascinating. Leads me to a related question is that overall, as a organization that has been a world leader in B2B SaaS products, like what are some of the challenges or unique nuances when it comes to succeeding in that industry and ensuring that not only do you have, great products, but you have customer loyalty that decides to stick with you day in and day out?
Yeah. So B2B SaaS, as you would assume, is a very different ballgame than B2C, right? So when you kind of catering to enterprises, it is really important to understand that you're not just selling a product, you're not just selling technology. You have to sell uh, how the enterprise can leverage the competencies that they already have, leverage the processes and the framework that they already have, and integrate with your technology solution to achieve their outcomes. It is not
Mm.
like a consumer who is opening a bank account and then using it just like any other consumer would. It is more about how, as a brand, you're able to integrate not just the product, but you're able to train your employees. You're able to, update your documentation and processes, all of that enabling yourself to get the best out of your product. So when it comes to building B2B SaaS products, I think that is one aspect that we cannot miss. We cannot just build a product and then assume that customers are going to adopt it.
Mm.
We have to really take a very engaging perspective when it comes to solving customer challenges. That is why the product team at Adobe, we work very closely with our implementation team as well. The implementation team really tries to understand what is the customer problem that they're trying to solve, where are they in their entire digital transformation journey, how much have they been able to achieve so far, what are the challenges that they have been facing, not just from a technology point of view, but from a process and people point of view, that are kind of creating those hurdles for them to making progress and to get the best ROI. And then we work along with the implementation team to kind of the best way to use a product. So that's one way of looking at it. Now, most of the time, what happens is that customers have some clarity on what they want to achieve, but the customers are also in a discovery mode.
Yeah.
They're also as curious as anyone else. They are probably new to digital transformation. They are probably spent some time in kind of using the technology which is available, but they also are interested in kind of figuring out things because the world is changing so fast. The way consumers behave is changing so fast. Everybody has a mobile phone. Everybody now has access to ChatGPT, other LLMs to make these decisions. So the consumer behavior is also changing as we speak. Customers, the enterprises, the brands want to kind of do the best that they can in terms of delivering that experience. So they're also very open-minded. They want to kind of co-create products in a way with us. So they take our guidance in terms of how we believe, or our opinion is that, most of the consumers would kind of using these kind of products going ahead. In turn, we are kind of also getting their help in kind of helping us with getting industry insights. The third thing is there's not one buyer for B2B products, as you would know. So there are decision makers. There are people who make the decision of what technology to kind of buy and adopt to. And then, of course, you have the practitioners, people who actually log in and people who actually work on your products. Now,
Mm.
the way in which you think about B2B products is you're building for both of these different segments. The end experience that you're going to deliver through your product is for the practitioners. It should be easy for them to kind of access the UI, navigating from one flow to the other, really focusing on the job to be done. How can you really optimize the entire experience so that they can complete the tasks that they need to? For the buyer and for the decision maker, it's all about value. It's all about that I have a set budget for marketing. How can I kind of invest that budget in technology to make sure that I'm getting the best ROI to achieve my business objectives? So as a product group, we have to kind of cater to both of these groups, building for the
Mm.
practitioners, but helping our decision makers make that right decision in perceiving that value, deriving the value, really kind of articulating that value for further, kind of investments. So these are a few things that I believe are very different from B2C. Challenges, not really challenging, but something that we have to think about.
What an interesting set of points, Abhishek, especially around the fact that a B2B SaaS product has to cater to or has to convince two sets of users, the buyers and the end users. One of the kind of unspoken truths about designing for B2B SaaS products in the UX industry, which I come from, is that the interface you show in the demo to the buyers has to look different from the interface that the end user actually uses because they are both looking and wanting different things. As a very crude example, I'll tell you what I mean, and then you can tell me what you think. Is if
Mhm.
you had a choice between dark mode and white mode, for example. I'm oversimplifying this, but just to make a point, I would use the dark mode in the demo to the buyers, but I would use a minimal white mode interface that causes very little fatigue on the eyes for the end user. But if I show that one to the buyers, it won't pop enough.
Mhm.
Is that true? I mean, does that, I don't know if Adobe actually, has to deal with that kind of buyer indecision, but is there a difference in what you show one user, the other?
Yeah. It's true. So we don't show multiple variations of the product. The products still remain the same. But the way in which we approach this is very persona driven. We have
Hmm.
very clearly defined personas in terms of who the practitioners are. Even within the practitioners, we may have multiple tiers of personas. And then we have a very clear definition of who the buyer persona is. Now, whenever we are interacting with the decision makers, which is most likely the CMO and the CMO directs people higher ups who are thinking about value or thinking about marketing outcomes and impact. I think our interaction engagement and the demos that we do for them is more from a 1,000 feet perspective. We show them that if you have a certain marketing budget, how Adobe's products help you in kind of planning that marketing budget across different channels of delivery, how we can make sure that your teams are more productive than traditionally they are. And this is how probably they would be able to achieve things faster. And third thing is that it's not just talks. You can actually see numbers. So here is a great executive analytics dashboard where you can see the investment, where you can see the CTR, the conversions, everything in a beautifully created visual dashboard, right? So that's the kind of interaction that we are having with the decision makers. The product remains the same. Now, when we switch gears and when we are talking to practitioners, that is more from perspective of, are you a campaign manager or are you an audience specialist or are you a content creator? And then what is your job to be done? If you're looking at, creating a campaign with certain budget for Diwali, how can I help you do that? How can I show you, hey, this is what you did in the last 3 years. And out of these 50 campaigns in the last 3 years, these are the top five that, work the best. And by the way, this is the kind of content that works the best. This should be the design of your email. This is how your header, the footer, the email body should look like. And by the way, you created 50 segments. 20 of the segments really performed well. You should reach out to them, continue reaching out to them on Meta and different surfaces, social media and whatnot. And by the way, these are the niche segment that only open their emails, right? So that kind of practitioner level insight is something that we demo to them. So it's totally persona driven, depending on
Yeah.
what really that individual is kind of trying to achieve.
Yeah. So it's a much more, I guess B2B sales is always more consultative, right? It's much more, I guess, higher level of customization also, I guess. Is every B2B SaaS implementation extremely bespoke and unique, or is it pretty much out of the box?
Yeah, it's kind of a spectrum, sort of. So I think depending on the complexity that we're talking about, some customers, so we cater to a lot of Fortune 500 customers. Some of them really are very, very mature. Started their digital transformation journey years and years back.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
already have all the tech stack. They have customer data platform. They have campaign delivery systems. They're in-house built or, other kind of, software vendors out there, but they really have good understanding. So they have very good, frameworks, processes, data pipelines already set up. For them, the implementation becomes very simple because, everything is in place. We probably have to just kind of, make a lift and shift from what they're using to what, Adobe has to offer. For other customers who probably are, towards the left end of this spectrum, we have to really help them. We have to make them understand that you're trying to send a happy birthday email to your customers, but you don't even know their email IDs and you don't even capture their birth dates. So let's start there. Let's look at data collection. Let's look at different surfaces where consumers have opportunity of offering the data to you with the concept. And then once the data is in, now let's start talking about how do you get the data in, how do you build segments, how do you send out emails, and many more use cases than that. So I think that becomes much more consultative, and that becomes a much
Okay.
longer process. So it totally depends on the customer.
So it really depends on the level of digital maturity that a company has that tells you how consultative something has to be versus, they just tell you exactly what they want and you deliver. So you've been doing this for 7 years now, Abhishek, and what's the one thing you love most about your job?
I think one thing that I really love doing is kind of getting to know the customer really well, like beyond the product that they sell. Because when you kind of look at the problems that CMOs and CIOs are trying to solve, I think you see some underlying patterns, which is everybody at the core is concerned about privacy. Everybody at the core is concerned about how much investment should go into technology and how they can, convince their own executives on the investment that they are making in tech and the returns that they are getting. So that is a visibility that you get when you talk to customers at that level, which goes beyond just the product. It goes beyond functionalities and
Yeah,
UI and everything.
absolutely.
And that is a conversation that I love to have. Like yesterday, I was meeting somebody from Australia, big bank in Australia, and we were talking about their digital transformation journey and how they went about just having branches and little or no online presence to today when they have multiple mobile applications and loyalty programs and whatnot, and what challenges they face in this entire journey. And the most important challenge that they talked about is not to do with product or technology. It was to do with people. It was to do with how do we
100%.
even ensure that, companies do understand that data, technology, foundations, platforms does have a big role to play as far as business outcome is concerned. So that is one thing that I really love, sort of, which is understanding beyond product, understanding the real business challenges that, our customers are facing and how I can solve them, with technology and how I can make it easier for them to make the decision.
And the exact opposite question, what's the one thing you find most challenging about your job that you find really frustrating?
I wish I had more time. Wish I had more than 24 hours because being in this position is kind of demanding. You always have to be engaged in everything. So you are in customer meetings, partner meeting, escalation meetings. Obviously, you still have to work on product execution, working with design, engineering, and all the other internal stakeholders. So there are so many things to do and so many exciting problems to kind of take a look into. But I think, the time is what is mostly factor for all of us.
Awesome. Now, looking at the future, right, with everything that AI offers as a possibility and everything that you're already doing with it, where do you see the future of experience management going? What excites you about that and what worries you?
Yeah. Uh, so let me tell you some of the things that I'm thinking about. Imagine you walking into a retail shop, let's say something like Zara or Marks and Spencer, and you are kind of greeted by a concierge who is greeting you, trying to understand what you're doing here, why you're here for, what kind of things you want to buy, trying to understand do you have an occasion that you want to buy for, convert that entire experience into digital experience. When you launch an application or when you go to a website, you're greeted by a digital concierge, an agent basically, that is interacting with
Yeah,
you, not just pushing
yeah,
ads to you or pushing offers to you, but trying to know you as a human, as a person, having those engaging experiences and then offering you few things which really are very, very personalized to you. I think that is the future of experience management that I'm looking at when it comes to end users. And I would love to have that experience as well. Like I probably would, I don't really love going to Amazon or Flipkart and just kind of scrolling things, looking at, ratings, looking at reviews and that making that hard decision. I would really love a friend who understands me and who can help me arrive at a decision faster. So that is one thing that probably is going to happen. By the way, we already are thinking about it. There's something that we already are doing for a few customers in a kind of a closed beta right now, which is going to offer this kind of experience to their consumers. Second is, when you look at websites today, any typical website, it can be personalized only to a certain extent, right? You can probably change the banner image, you can change the offers, some content. But what if the entire website was redesigned dynamically based on who is
Wow.
visiting that website?
That's like the holy
So
grail of experience
exactly,
management.
exactly. So let's say if you're trying to buy a subscription to AWS or Azure, and if I know that you are a product manager and you're coming to my website, what is most important to you? As a product manager, you probably already have some use cases, and I should be redesigning the entire website to make it less techy
Wow.
and make it more value driven compared to a data engineer who I know that you are a data engineer, you're coming to the same website. I'm going to show you stuff which is more technology driven, right? So that entire redesign of the website, not just the content, but also the layout and everything is the second thing that I believe is going to happen. Third
Fascinating.
thing is on a very totally different spectrum, which is how are companies going to adopt this entire, Gen AI, ML, driven thing. So you already know that the velocity of product development has increased so much now with the use of no code, low code tools, and also like LLMs kind of coming in as well with co-pilots and everything available for developers. I see that enterprises going ahead would be more faster in making those innovations and more faster in testing those innovations by multi-variations. So you can create multiple variations of a product or an application. You can roll that out to your different segment of customer, and then you can get the test data really, really back very soon to kind of make those decisions. So I think that is one thing that Gen AI and AI-driven development tools is going to help a lot to enterprises as well.
Wow. No, what a amazing vision of the future. Do you think there will be a need for a marketing team in the future at all? I mean, when you have really smart, intelligent, AI-driven platforms, not only doing the execution, but a lot of the thinking for you. I wonder what that means for the design community, the marketing community, or even product management. Does that scare you? Should we be worried?
Yeah, that's a question that is asked so many times. So let me kind of share with you some of the things that I have heard and I have observed in my interactions, right? So one is that when it comes to creation, when it comes to generation of content, and content can be images, video, text, whatever, even websites, customers still believe that they want to have the control as far as the brand element is concerned, the story of the brand is concerned. They
Yeah.
still do not trust Gen AI that they will be able to represent that brand story in creation of the content. So they always want the human to be in the loop. They always want somebody who can start with a set of guidelines and framework that will help the model in creating content which is closer to what they need. And then obviously the content team to make tweaks to make it really, really what they are looking for, right? So that's on the
Mm.
content generation piece. In terms of marketing or even brand management, I think the way in which we are like Adobe is thinking about building these products is in a phased approach, right? So the first phase was, hey, you have a co-pilot, you have an assistant who can help you with answering questions. So you have questions about how the product works, how to create a campaign. You can ask the question, and instead of going to the documentation, the assistant is going to kind of give you the answer in a few seconds. Then you move to the second phase, which is, I know, you can answer my question, but can you help me take decisions? So tell me the campaigns that have really worked very well in the last 3 weeks, because I want to take inspiration. I want to kind of do something similar. So that is more insight on the data that I have. Then you move to the third phase, which is now I'm not just going to ask you questions. I'm going to ask you to do things for me. So now go ahead and create a campaign because Diwali is coming up. I want to create a very similar campaign that I did last year, which performed really well. I don't want to do all the menial tasks of creating things in the system. Create it for me. So that's the final thing. Where actually the concern comes in is when there is a decision point, when the agent has to make a decision that here the campaign is not performing really well this time. What should I do? Should I stop it? Should I change something? Should I probably change the target audience? Should I change the content? That decision is something that the marketing organization still wants control over. So I still believe the marketing organization is going to be there. They will be there to drive how the marketing strategies are being made. The campaign brief is going to probably be driven a lot by AI ML. I think the briefing is going to happen using a lot of Gen AI, but the execution of that, apart from just creation of things by agents, is going to be largely controlled by humans.
So, probably the marketing team's footprints are going to reduce. You will still need people there to do the thinking, to make the critical decisions about how the brand needs to be represented. But, what is truly, I think, exciting when I think about the future that you just described is, I think smaller companies with limited human resources and monetary resources can punch way above their weight and compete with larger brands because of the technologies you offer. Right? I don't necessarily need 100 people brand and marketing team to have the same rigor with my brand experiences that a large, incumbent might have. And I think that allows the democratization of experiences and personalized marketing that I think creates a kind of equalized market for everybody. Because then the only thing that ultimately matters when everybody can do good targeting is your product good enough, right? It's what you're selling ultimately worth its salt, rather than one company does really good personalized marketing and experience management and the other doesn't. So there's an inequality. That's my view. I think it has a very bright future for the consumer, because at the end of the day, it'll mean that no company out there can think that we are big, we've been doing this for so many years, and now we are immovable from our position of advantage. New companies can come and leverage all the smart tools you have and give them a run for their money. It's kind of already happening. And so that for me is the most exciting, when it puts the power in the hands of the two people in the garage that are starting a company today. And, there's so many D2C brands coming up, right? Right. Like, look at the amount of power they have with all the tech you're putting out there, right? And it's not just the Coca-Colas and the Marriotts of the world, right? But it's also the small homegrown brands that come out of, every locality in the world that are hoping to make it big. So I think that's really exciting. I know we're at the 53 minutes mark, so I'm gonna get towards the end segment, and one of the questions I like to ask towards the end, Abhishek, in your interaction with teams and customers and stakeholders, both inside and outside of Adobe, is there something that you believe in that is usually seen as an unpopular opinion by others? Like, it's a fact that you kind of have learned over the years, but it's hard for you to sell and convince people of. Like, what would be that one thing?
Yeah. And I think over the years, so I have been into product management for like close to 15 years now. And one thing that I think is really, really difficult for me to make people aligned on is that product is not just the piece of code that you build. There is so much goes into actually making sure that the customer actually use it, because that is the real value. Fortunately, at Adobe, we have a culture. The way the company is set up is that, the product team is enabled and empowered enough to make decisions or to influence decisions, even which go beyond product. Like I've been talking about, customer processes and people and framework and whatnot. Unfortunately, not many companies do that. Many companies still believe that product is about understanding the requirements, executing on the requirements, building a piece of software, and then assuming that it's going to be used. And that's why you see a feature overload. You see, products which have hundreds and hundreds of features, hardly used. And I think that is one thing that is really difficult to kind of align people on, because people do want to build things. People do want to build features because they may have heard some problem statement from a customer that they spoke with, and they want to solve it, genuinely solve it. But I think what I've been really trying to kind of push for, at least within my team, is if you come up with a list of 50 problems to solve for, be very, very brutal in terms of thinking about which of these problems really have a value attached to it. Not for us, but for the customers. Is it a really a problem that they are willing to kind of use a product for? Do they have workarounds? if they are able to use this product in conjunction to process the people and everything, then we should go for it. If you still have those hurdles to cross, let's cross those hurdles before we talk about technology, because technology is the easier part. We can get something built by design and engineering and probably in a few weeks, but getting adopted by the customers is the real challenge. So I believe that is something that has been really bit challenging for me to kind of make people understand. Adobe, not so much, but previously, yes, it has been.
It's one of those classic problems in any kind of product management environment, right? Where you're constantly trying to avoid the featureitis problem and keep reminding people to step back and ask not how great this feature is and how can we build it, but what problem are you really solving?
Exactly.
And I would say if you would ask me this question, my answer would be exactly the same. As somebody who builds experiences for a whole host of clients, I think that's the constant endeavor I have to manage through the project from the beginning to the end, because people get enamored by features and technology, so much so that I think they lose sight of the fact that at the end of the day, it's the adoption and the value that it provides that will make all the difference. Because there are so many examples of great products with amazing technology that had spectacular failures. And I think there's a very long list of those products and a very busy graveyard of those kind of products that keep coming and going even in 2025. So on that note, Abhishek, I will let you go. I've taken a lot of your time. It's been a fascinating, I would say, just a sneak peek, because I just felt like I was just kind of, getting to the main stuff, which means that we definitely have to have several more parts of this conversation to actually start getting into how do you really start crafting these experiences and the other detailed aspects of what you do. But it's been fascinating. It's been a very insightful conversation for me, because you've taken me on a journey to understanding what's happening with experience management in the world today, what the end users can expect to see, and how it'll shape their lives and decisions moving forward. I'm excited about that. And like I said, I'm also always a little scared with the pace at which technology changes. But I think that's true with change in general. That change is both exciting and sometimes it can make you a little bit uncomfortable. But I wish you all the best and more power to you in the amazing work you're doing at Adobe. And until next time, maybe I'll see you in person in Bangalore.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Saurav. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you.